Hi, I'm Tim Ellis. Thank you for joining us for Laneway Live. Tonight's special guest is one of the most unique performers in the Melbourne magic community. He has style, panache, and moustache. Please welcome Mr. Marmalade.
My name is Mr. Marmalade. I have a residency at Storyville, which is a literature and fairy tale themed bar in the city. We're in a secret location where we perform various experiments of questionable ethics. Time's a flat circle, deal with it.
Very smooth. Seamless.
Yeah, smooth as silk. I've had a lot of time to practice on those like finer points. So yeah, quarantine's been good.
I was just talking about sliding the chair in. That was so smooth.
Yeah. We put out we've actually made this studio just in time for quarantine. It's designed for filming things and rehearsals. So, you know, as an artist, I'm uniquely qualified to keep myself amused for hours and hours and days on end.
So that's how you're spending your time. You're somewhere in a secret location in Melbourne.
Oh, no longer the secret location. No, the authorities found us, and we are now in an entirely legitimate place where I could tell you if it weren't for all the screaming fans that would be beating at my door.
Fair enough. And I can understand all the fans. They're all flocking through to just see that moustache.
Oh yeah, it's just nice to have occasion to do my mustache. It's been a hot minute since I've done anything except look like a broom and practice magic in a terry toweling dressing gown, you know?
I'm glad I gave you a reason to get dressed.
Yeah, me too.
I've
had new housemates who actually have no idea what I look like.
I thought as
Beautiful.
a tribute to Mr. Marmalade, I should at least try some of these, see which
100%.
me. Here we go. This is the Scoundrel.
Oh, you do look like a cad. Give you a cape and you look like you'd tie girls to railroad tracks while laughing nefariously.
Yeah, no, not that one. Try this one. Here we go. This one looks good.
What do you got? Oh,
this is the
well,
band.
that is interesting. Yeah. It's a little bit Wild Westy, isn't it?
Either that or maybe I've come to service the pool.
Yeah, true, true. Very 70s.
What else? Let's try this one. Here we go.
Ah, that feels kind of a bell hobby, maybe?
Yes, I think so. I was thinking the exact same thing. We've got the Rogue. Here we go. Oh, this one broke.
Oh, the Broken Rogue. Okay, okay. That one, you know what? We'll go with Charlie Chaplin. That's a good one. Yeah, yeah. I've always enjoyed the way that he walks.
That's very funny, man. So you, of course, have a real mustache, not a stick-on mustache, and it is an award-winning mustache.
Yes, 2018 Ballarat Beard and Mustache Competition, Mustache Division. They don't have a substache division just yet, but we're working on it.
Where should people campaign to get the substash going?
Oh, I've got a change.org petition. So if you jump onto Mr. Marmalade's Facebook page, you should find a change.org petition. It's behind a paywall, but I've got to figure out a way to eat. So that's my new scheme.
I'm glad you've figured out all your solutions for coronavirus time. So what were you doing during the changeover when coronavirus hit? Were you performing? Was your life interrupted severely?
Look, I'm relatively comfortable, or I was doing residencies at Storyville and Holy Moly through various entertainment agencies. I think Omegan handles Holy Moly. And yeah, unfortunately, just when this came through, my entire career depends on non-essential gatherings of more than 500 people. So that's all completely dried up. I'm a little bit lucky because just before then I had a couple of those like nice fat corporate gigs, which I've then really dragged my feet on sending invoices out for so that I could almost like count that as a later paycheck. But even then, you know, like I only really go out and perform, 8 hours a week anyway. So I'm relatively used to being time rich and sort of pottering around doing whatever I want. So it hasn't made too much of a shift for me, except I don't see as many of my friends as I'd like.
So the people who don't know you, have not encountered you before, you are quite a unique identity. You started off street performing, is that right?
Yeah, so I went to Nike for 3 years and studied magic there under Mr. Tree, who was an old Chinese man who spoke nearly no English. And he taught me all the card manipulation that I do, which is pulling cards out of thin air, and really pushed me through that first, 6 months to 3 years of any skill where you're absolutely terrible. And when I got out, I realized that jobs weren't just falling off trees, but there were always people with money in their pockets on the streets. So I went out and I hit bricks, and I sort of did that for a number of years until my skills got to a point where I felt like I was comfortable putting myself in front of agents and knowing that my product was, tried and tested and definitely will make people at the very least amused.
So you were actually studying magic at Nike or other things as well? Nike is,
I was studying acrobatics as well,
yeah.
So they make you pick two. They make you pick two specialties, and
school.
Originally I was doing physical theater and dance at the high school that I graduated from, and that led me down the path to Nike, where I wanted to do partner acrobatics, but my parents were a little bit reluctant because they felt like that sort of has quite a short shelf life. Like you can't really do high impact stuff because your body will give out at some point. And so I said, all right, well, then I will retire into magic. And I don't know if that's what they meant. And I certainly didn't mean to retire into it as quickly as I have. But it certainly served me really well. It's a really good opportunity for me to sort of show off my personality and talk just a bunch. And I love the sound of my own voice. So it's been really good for that.
And your personality is quite unique. How did you come up with your look and your style?
Honestly, I inherited a lot of these sensibilities from an ex-girlfriend. She sort of did a lot of my styling, and then we parted ways for one reason or another, and I just kept a lot of the aesthetic and developed it into my own thing. Like I've always enjoyed vintage stuff in general. I've actually got a, I wonder if you can get a shot of this. I wonder if this will read, but I've actually got a, let's see, that's a retro velvet bedhead with built-in lights and radios that I found on the side of the road that I'm looking at refurbishing. This is my magic bar that I'm developing routines for, so that I can eventually take a version of that packs flat to festivals. But for now, I've got a huge, very heavy bar that I'm also working on. So I've always loved old stuff and vintage things. And I think that a lot of that is, yeah, a lot of that uniqueness just comes from the sensibilities that I've developed in the aspects of my life that don't revolve around magic. Because if magic was the only thing that I was into, then it would all be black and chrome and tigers and girls, as far as I can tell.
And you have had different looks, though, before you settle on your Mr. Marmalade persona, haven't you?
Yeah, this is your new thing, isn't it? It's not just the technology, but also you've become sort of a journalist digging around.
Facebook stalker.
Yeah, well, Facebook makes it very easy, doesn't it? So yeah, I sort of, I was a metalhead before I sort of found a more whimsical sort of set of sensibilities, and that sort of turned in. It was more of a sort of a rocky look, I guess. Again, not necessarily as a strong character-driven, choice, so much as just that's the clothes that I was wearing that I enjoyed and felt comfortable in, that felt like the truest expression of myself, and as who I feel like I am has sort of grown, which you hope happens as you get older. Otherwise, what are you doing? That has also changed. I've settled into this pretty hard now. This is quite comfortable. This is a new one, which I really love. But I do think that I've probably found the brand that I'm going to be comfortable with for quite some time. Who knows? Maybe I'll get a kid's dragon costume or something like that. Something really innovative.
Don't get that. It's been done. It's been done. Sorry.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah,
Oh, maybe
we'll
next
talk
time.
about it later. I'll show you some links later. Yeah. So you participated in the Melbourne Magic Festival a little while ago, and you actually won the Candlelight Theatre Company's Artistic Expression Fellowship. So you won this wonderful opportunity to have your show mentored.
Yes, that was wonderful. That was really wonderful. That show took about probably 6 years to make. Between sort of, obviously I was doing other things as well. Like there was, an intensive 6 months once I had all of the acts developed and things like that. But it took me about 6 years of sort of building a routine and then taking it out to cabarets, running them in, making sure that I'd fleshed them out enough that I could feel comfortable sort of making people come to just pay to come just to see this guy. And it paid off. It paid off in a wonderful opportunity, which is the beginning and now ongoing relationship with Candlelight. So I've spent time with Eugene working on stuff for the show, and I've spent time with Kane, and I've only seen his last name written down, so it could be Latch or Lack or Lach. I'm not quite sure, but he's an absolutely lovely man. Yeah, and it's nice. I've got an award that actually resulted in a friendship, which I really appreciate. So that's been really good. And then I took that show to Adelaide, and I lost money hand over fist, because it turns out that just having a show isn't enough. You really need to engage with marketing, which I just took for granted, because doing a show in Melbourne where I've already got a base, I just needed to tell people that I was finally doing something with my life, and everyone was like, "Oh, really? We've got to go see that." Whereas in Adelaide, there's maybe like 5 or 6 people who are going to be like, "Oh, well, maybe." So that was really, I didn't go into it with any expectations, so it wasn't exactly wildly disappointing, but it certainly hammered home just how much more work needs to go into that back end of things. And up until the coronavirus, I was doing that show weekly at Storyville, which is a fairy tale themed bar in the city, which was it was ticking along. It was ticking along. I certainly think I need to do some more. You got Lachlan, the absolutely legendary escapologist who had the actual like literal magic castle up north on the show recently.
Arthur Coghlan.
Arthur Coghlan, thank you. And I actually, independently of the show, just became aware of his work and have been quietly becoming more interested in large-scale escapes for the purposes of marketing, because it looks like a really fun way to get your point across, you know. And some of his are absolutely incredible as well. I'm absolutely fascinated by them now.
Well, good luck with that. I know, having been locked into a trunk and dropped into the Yarra River many years ago, there's a
Which I have seen as well. Yeah, you've only done that once, haven't you? That's the sort of thing you only do once, isn't it?
Well, I actually did, to be completely honest, I did do a rehearsal of it in Tasmania first. And the difference was, in Tasmania, the water was crystal clear and beautiful temperature. So when I went under the water, it was like, oh yes, I can do this. This is good. And going under the water in the Yarra River, the Yarra River, as people may not know, is literally mud. So once you go down,
it's borderline like the Ankh-Morpork like river, where you can almost step on it, but I wouldn't suggest.
Oh, if Dynamo did walking on water on the Yarra River, people go, so what's that about? So yeah, it was quite scary, because the mud comes down, and then by the time it gets here, you're like, okay, now I'm in trouble. So good luck with those. Good luck with those.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'll resist the urge for the Yarra. I'm actually thinking of doing them once they're allowed to start happening again at music festivals and things like that, because you've already got an audience of about 10,000 people there. And so sort of it's already inbuilt. I don't even need to do press releases or anything like that. Like, I mean, I can, but it's sort of, I'm already there doing the thing. All I need to do is hire a crane or maybe use one of theirs. And I've got a huge pull. And also, obviously the years that you've got to put into rehearsing to make sure that you don't die.
Yeah, you are quite unique in that you do a lot of festival shows, and there's not a lot of magicians who can work those sort of environments.
No, well, I think that there's not a lot of magicians who want to work those sorts of environments either.
Why would that be?
Like, people are fully capable of doing all sorts of things, and I don't want to sort of smirch any magician's ability to work a given room. But certainly it is a unique environment with its own unique challenges, but also really unique benefits as well. It's certainly it's an environment in which people are very receptive to magic, and they're very, very good for your self-esteem in the ways in which they react, because they are not terribly inhibited, which is really nice. And they also tend to be quite active and proactive about continuing to follow you after an interaction like that, because it can be, as we all know, magic can be quite a startling and sort of it can be life-changing, I'm sure, but for the most part, you're at the very least leaving an impression on people when you show them something that is completely impossible. And in those environments, I've found lots of people do keep track of me, and so that was a large part of my sort of minor success at Magic Festival, was due to the music and lifestyle festivals that I did, because these people come afterwards. But I also do a lot of sort of day parties, house and techno parties, nightclubs, things like that. I really love loud music and yelling over it at strangers. So it suits me just great, and I'm kind of glad that not many other magicians want to do it, because it leaves more for me.
Well, what's your most unique sort of environment that you've worked in?
I suppose it's about perspective, really. I've done a couple of sort of fairly heavy BDSM parties. So that's sort of, in terms of sort of the most distractingly attired clientele, I'd say that was probably pretty good. You could really do quite a lot of like You could do they really enjoy escapology and things like that because you're tying people up with ropes and things. And
But wouldn't that
lots of lines about.
Wouldn't that be contrary to their whole policy, though?
Oh no, because the safe word is what allows you to get out. It's amazing. It totally works. Safe, sane, and consensual at all times, 100%. After that, it's a lot of outdoor festivals. I once did, and it's not even sort of in keeping in terms of it was unique for me, which is ironic because a lot of sort of magicians, their bread and butter is these sorts of gigs. But I did what was a Swiss multi-millionaire who had a mansion in Jindabyne that was just for shits and gigs. Like the snow's not even good in Jindabyne if you're from Switzerland, but he still got one. And it with a property that comes right down to Lake Jindabyne, where he owned a submarine, just a small one, like not a. No, and that's how he described it to me. So it's only a small one, only 2 people, and I'm like, it's still a submarine, man. Like, and so that was one of the more unique ones.
What's he exploring in Lake Jindabyne?
They did actually flood the entire old Jindabyne. So if you hypothetically, if you had a submarine, you could actually check out old Jindabyne. When the water's really low, you can just see the top of the old church.
Wow,
which is pretty cool. So you might actually be able to do you can pretend that you're a bit of a deep sea explorer looking at
Atlantis.
Ruined civilizations from yore.
This is very informative.
That one definitely left a mark.
Yeah, you didn't get to go in the submarine though, did you?
No. Honestly, they wouldn't let me do it. Like I was walking around giving it these ones, hustling for my paycheck.
One of the other aspects that makes your show unique is you engage with live music, but not just live music, but also the live musicians.
Yes. Yeah. I one of the things that I found that didn't engage me about circus in general when I was sort of performing as a circus artist was that so much of it was just the tricks. And it was just the tricks one after another with applause cues and things like that. Occasionally some really interesting costumes, and that would be about it. And I was never good enough at circus tricks to have them stand up on their own. Mostly because I like to think that I spend a lot of time engaging with all of these other things. And for a lot of magic, I felt sort of quite similarly. And so my response to that, to make a magic show that I would want to see, is that I wanted to flesh out the world of the character that I've created. And part of doing that was having live music, which was amazing because, again, like I'm a relatively diligent man, but I would prefer to have contingencies put in just in case something goes wrong. And live music's fantastic for that. But it also gave me characters to talk to and interact with on stage, which sort of, again, I think created sort of a unique world that was really fun for me and my friends to play in, and sort of created that space that we enjoyed inhabiting. And I think that really read to the audience as well. So yeah, had a live band. It was great. Sort of music boxes with loop pedals and viola. And then originally we had a classically trained bassoonist. Yeah, the big old licorice stick. And he's fantastic. He now performs under Crumhorn. He went to focus on his music, and now we've got Mr. Zerkler, we're all old friends from high school, which is also really nice. It's really nice when your work can sort of keep you connected and close to the people that you care about. It's been really nice.
So now you're spending your time preparing new pieces, working in your newly renovated studio, and collecting odd things from
So much room for activities. Yeah.
So what is the plan once we're allowed to go outside and interact with human beings again?
I'm going to do a lot of that. Yeah. At the moment, I'm maintaining relationships both with Holy Moly and also with Storyville. I'm going to start releasing some stuff. I'm actually going to go to Storyville. I've got to check if legally I'm allowed to go to Storyville, because now there are all sorts of restrictions. But regardless, I'm going to be releasing just some quick little magic things and some vaudevillian skills. I've been inspired a lot by Charlie FRYE's stuff. I don't know if you've seen the releases that he's been doing sort of semi-regularly, but I've got all 3 of his DVDs.
Put
and
the
I think
links
it's just
down
fantastic.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. The great QUARANTINI, I think he's calling himself, and
So
a man after my own heart. He does it all in a dressing gown.
So you're going to be doing some online releases.
Yeah. I'll be doing just a couple of little things like that in the lead up to sort of. It's just me trying to keep my connections with the people who I worked with before all of this went down, and hopefully I'm just going to go straight back, pick up right where I left off. Doing my residencies, which I absolutely love, and developing a show that is slated for next Magic Festival, which is great because if I'm being totally honest, like I said, it took me 6 years to make the first one, and I'm really proud of it, but I definitely feel like I needed another year to get this one to be what it wanted to be. So, I probably could have preferred better circumstances for the excuse to not do it this year, but gift horses and mouths and all that.
So now we're going to have to start another conspiracy theory about why this whole virus started.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Don't eat the marmalade. Don't eat the marmalade.
Well, thank you for chatting with us. We're looking forward to seeing some of your releases. So we'll have to put them on the Magic Festival website as soon as they're available, so we can share them. We do have lots of them. We got lots. If you go to the Magic Festival website, we've got like about 20 or 30 different live, pre-recorded online events that are happening all around the world, so people can share in them. We'll add yours to
I actually saw some of those. Yeah, they're great. They're absolutely fantastic. I think you might have shared one that was all in French language as well. I'm not sure if that was you guys, but
Boris.
Yeah, I've got a French housemate who's going out of his mind being stuck with all these Anglophiles. And so I've been able to be like, oh yeah, have some of my art, but in your language. And that's been great.
It's fantastic. I mean, the online community have gone completely crazy with just churning so much material out, which is fantastic. There's no way anyone could be bored if they don't have access to the internet at the moment. But thank you again for participating in this little alleviation of boredom for everybody and letting us know what you're up to. But thanks.
Absolute pleasure. And if there is one other thing that I can strongly suggest, it's Cooped Up Cabaret, which is an online cabaret run by a good friend of mine, Sophie Delightful. And it's done, to my understanding, I think they do the acts live, where it is like a Zoom thing like this, but it cuts to each cabaret performer locked in their box somewhere. And it's been going absolutely great guns. I think they had 500 tickets sold for the last one that they did. And that's a wonderful time. I'm sure I'll be sort of involved with that at some point. But if you do find yourself bored, but with an internet connection, I can definitely highly recommend that. It's a great show.
Well, thank you again. We'll catch up with you later. Bye-bye.
My pleasure, man. It's good to see you. I'll catch you around.